barely 2 months before the first votes are cast in the 2016 presidential election for the primaries and caucuses, endorsements are a hot commodity, and our next guest is sure to shake things up with his endorsement. Joining us right now is former chairman of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, California Congressman Darrell Issa. Congressman, good morning to you.
Good morning, and thanks for covering this. You know, Marco Rubio really is an exciting candidate, and I'm pleased to be able to endorse him and to work for him for the presidency.
Well, you think that, and the reason you are lending your name to his is you feel that he is conservative enough for you, and he's also electable, which ultimately is, if you're going to put your name with somebody, you want him to be electable.
Well, and he's been fighting some of the same fights. You know, he's saved us money on Obamacare where others have simply wanted to repeal it. He's already saved $2.5 billion by eliminating an unreasonable backstop by the taxpayers for failed program. He's been fighting for a lot of things I believe in. And look, he's not afraid to engage on the hottest subjects. And that's important because the next president's going to have to fix a lot of broken things, including our foreign policy.
Sure, absolutely. One of the things you do not agree with him on is the bulk collection of metadata, and the NSA program has ended officially, but you were one of the guys behind the USA Freedom Act. Why do you know, there are people, Congressman, who say, you know, now that we don't do that anymore, it is leaving us vulnerable to terrorists. What do you say to that?
Well, this has been hotly debated, and you know, I had the distinct displeasure of being here on September 11th. I voted for the Patriot Act, authored by Jim Sensenbrenner, and I voted for the USA Freedom Act because we saw abuses by this administration in that bulk collection. It was never in the act. I think the compromise we have now is going to work. Some have their doubts, including Senator Rubio, but I believe it will, and I think that the Director of National Intelligence, who now says it can work, may ultimately be the decider. But the senator is on the Select Intelligence Committee. He's going to have to look at it day by day. I'm willing to be wrong on this, but the act, as we amended it, has monitoring, so if we need to do something different, obviously Congress will.
Okay. Switching gears, Congressman, on Friday there was a terrible shooting and murders of those people out at that Planned Parenthood in Colorado. And even before we knew who the person was, what the motivation, if anything, it sounds like once again it could be a mental illness thing. People from the political left were blaming Republicans. I'm going to play some sound for you, and then I want your reaction.
Sure.
We've experienced so much hateful language, hateful speech. Such a negative environment has been created around the work that Planned Parenthood does.
Well, certainly it is a form of terrorism, and maybe in some way it's a function of the inflammatory rhetoric that we see on all, I mean, so many issues.
What they're saying is that this is creating a toxic, poisonous environment. Women have the right to have an abortion.
And Congressman, on the cover of the New York Daily News today, it says, "Hate loaded the gun." And there's a picture of Carly Fiorina and Trump. I mean, they're trying to connect some dots that I don't know that people can connect the dots at this stage of the game.
Well, there's very much no connection to the dots. This was a gentleman who had all of the history that I would say adds up to mental illness. You know, he told his neighbor about how you had to put a metal roof on to keep the government from spying on you. He was clearly paranoid. He had some run-ins with the law previously. He was crying out for, quite frankly, for treatment of his mental illness. He shouldn't have been able to have weapons. This is a good example where we should be talking about the mentally ill and about keeping guns out of their hands, something that Republicans and Democrats, I believe, can agree on, something that Senator Rubio would be more than willing to help champion, the fact that that as much as we're pro-Second Amendment, we have to realize that some people clearly do not have the capacity, and this seems to be one of them. And I think it's terrible when you mix the two, because there is a fix for getting the guns out of the mentally ill's hands and treating them, and I think we need to do both.
All right. Congressman Darrell Issa, who just endorsed Marco Rubio for president. Congressman, thank you very much for joining us live from the Bureau today.
Thank you. See you on the campaign trail.
All right. You're right about that.